The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was quiet, but the silence was never peaceful. It was heavy, stretched thin across political tension and ancient grudges. At the center of the room stood a long circular table made of polished stone from a neutral planet, surrounded by chairs built to fit many species. Some chairs hovered, some stood rooted to the floor. Some were empty, except for one. The humans sat tall and still, their uniforms sharp and unadorned. At the head of their group sat Captain Alex Voss, Earth's ambassador. He was not a man who wasted words. With short-cropped dark hair and sharp eyes, he watched everything. Years in the Navy had taught him to listen before speaking, and to strike only when it mattered. The Council was deep into talks about Route 7, a new trade path that would stretch through Earth's outer colonies. It was important, too important. Billions of credits would flow through that route. Whoever controlled it controlled the future. But no one had asked Earth what it thought. "Let us proceed to vote on resource authority over Route 7, said Chancellor Vuric, leader of the Zarn Dominion, his voice echoing in the chamber. His reptilian face was calm, but cold. "I believe the matter is simple. Zarn fleets will oversee patrol and taxation." Voss leaned forward slightly. "With respect, Chancellor, Route 7 runs directly through Earth's domain. We should. You may file your objection later," Vuric interrupted, not even looking at him. "We are short on time." Some of the other delegates shifted in their seats. A few glanced at Voss, then quickly looked away. It was clear the decision had already been made behind closed doors. The meeting was just a formality. Earth had been excluded again. Captain Voss sat back slowly. He did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. "We came to build a future with you," he said. His words were calm, but firm, not to be ruled over. "If our voice means nothing, then Earth will not be a part of this." Vuric gave a tight, controlled smile. "That is unfortunate, but perhaps for the best." There was a long pause. Then Alex Voss stood. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the council chamber. His team followed. The sound of their footsteps echoed. Sharp, steady, final. The room stayed still. A whisper passed from one delegate to another. "Did they just leave?" "They walked out. They've never done that before. They can't afford to." But Captain Voss didn't look back. As he stepped through the massive doors of the council hall, his mind was already ahead. Earth would not be silent anymore. Inside the chamber, Vuric leaned back in his seat, expression unreadable. The silence returned, but it was no longer calm. It was the sound of something breaking. The walkout hit the Galactic Council like a comet. At first, no one knew how to react. For 100 years, Earth had stayed calm, patient, and loyal to the idea of unity. Now their silence had ended, and it had ended loudly. Inside the council chamber, some tried to act as if nothing had happened. Others whispered nervously. The human seats were still empty. The quiet space where their flag once stood now felt larger than the rest of the room. Chancellor Vuric returned to his position at the head of the table. His long fingers tapped lightly on the polished surface. His face remained calm, but his eyes flicked from one delegate to the next. "They will return," he said smoothly. "Humans are dramatic, but they are also dependent. They need the council more than the council needs them." His words were meant to comfort, but they did not land well. Several delegates exchanged uneasy glances. The truth was harder to swallow. Earth mattered. They weren't just another species with a seat at the table. Earth's technology powered half the council's communication grid. Their warships guarded trade lanes from pirate clans. Their colonies fed millions. Losing Earth wasn't just a political mistake. It could shake the very structure of the galaxy. In the lower halls of the station, beyond the chamber, the consequences were already beginning to spread. Small races, those without fleets or strong defenses, gathered in private. Delegates from the Youthan Confederacy, the Valari traders, and the peaceful Noxian Bloom were among the first to voice concern. "What if Earth pulls its patrols from our sectors?" one Youthan asked, his 3 eyes blinking in worry. "They said they wouldn't fight," whispered another. "But if someone else moves into the vacuum, they leave behind." "Do we side with them?" asked a young Valari diplomat. "Or stay neutral?" No one had answers. Only fear. In a quiet conference room on the upper levels of Aegis Prime, Captain Alex Voss stood facing a wide window. The stars outside drifted slowly past. He said nothing at first. His team stood behind him. Four officers, each chosen for more than just skill. They trusted him. They had served with him during the Skarn border conflicts and knew he didn't act on impulse. "You understand the message we sent," Voss said finally. "Yes, sir," said Commander Lin, his chief of staff. They didn't listen, so we left. They expected us to shout, to threaten, to plead. Voss turned around. His voice was even. We did none of that. We walked. "Do you think it worked?" another officer asked. Voss paused, then nodded slowly. "Yes. Not because they're afraid of us, but because they're afraid without us." He looked over a data tablet. Reports had already started coming in. Some council members were reaching out quietly. Others were watching and waiting. But one thing was clear. Vurek was trying to contain the panic. Back in his private quarters, Vurek spoke to his closest aides. His voice was lower now, and his expression had changed. "They are testing us," he said. "We cannot let them set the terms. Strength must be answered with strength." "But what if others follow Earth's example?" his advisor asked. "We may lose more than we gain." Vurek's eyes narrowed. "Then we remind them who holds the center of this council, and who will protect them when no one else will." Outside the station, traffic slowed. Patrol ships hesitated. The usual movement of commerce and security was disrupted, just slightly, but enough to feel it. The first cracks had formed. Captain Voss returned to his temporary quarters. He stared out into the stars again. Earth had always believed in the Council, but belief alone could not hold up a broken system. If they wanted to be heard, they would have to force others to listen. He didn't want war, but he would not beg for peace. The halls of Aegis Prime grew quieter in the days after the walkout. Not peaceful, just quieter, like the deep stillness before a storm. No alarms had sounded. No battles had begun, but everyone knew something had changed. Inside a secure chamber away from the Council's eyes, Captain Alex Voss met with 3 ambassadors. They were not from the powerful empires. These were smaller species, smart, careful, and often overlooked. The Valari, short and agile, ran some of the largest trade hubs in neutral space. The Noxian Bloom, a hive mind of plant-based beings, provided rare medical supplies. And the Euthan Confederacy, though small, controlled key mining stations. They had come quietly. No guards, no symbols, just concern. "You walked out," said the Valari ambassador, her voice sharp but respectful. That alone shook the chamber. But now everyone is asking, what comes next? Voss folded his hands calmly. "That depends on the Council." "You think they'll invite you back?" asked the Euthan. His large black eyes blinked slowly. "Vurek will not give up control easily." "I'm not asking to be invited back," Voss said. "I'm asking for respect. If they can't offer that, we build something else." The Noxian ambassador rustled gently, a sound like leaves in the wind. "You speak of division. That is dangerous." "No," Voss said firmly. "I speak of balance. The Council was built to protect all voices. Now it only listens to the loudest. If Earth has to lead a new way forward, we will." The room went silent. They were all thinking the same thing. A second alliance. A break from the old system. For now, it was just words, but words from Earth carried weight. The meeting ended without promises. But as they left, the Valari paused beside Voss. "If you move," she said softly, "we won't stand in your way. And we may not stand with the Council." Voss gave a slight nod. That was all he needed for now. Meanwhile, on the Council level, Chancellor Vurek was already working to tighten his grip. He met with powerful species, those who had benefited most from Earth's silence over the years. His tone was smooth, but the message was sharp. "Humans overreach," he said to the Terrene commanders, who supplied most of the Council's defense ships. "They believe their strength gives them the right to lead." "They have done much for the Council," one Terrene replied. "And they have been rewarded," Vurek snapped. "But now they want more. They want control." He made offers. More trade, more resources, better positions in the Council structure. In return, he wanted loyalty and silence. Some agreed. Others hesitated. But Vurek moved quickly. He sent envoys to systems under Earth's protection. He offered them council security if they distanced themselves from Earth. He leaked stories about human aggression. He painted Voss as a threat. The strategy was clear: isolate Earth, break their alliances before they could grow. Back on Aegis Prime, Voss read the reports coming in. 2 colonies have requested new security contracts from the Council, Commander Lin said, laying a tablet in front of him. They're scared. They're being pushed. Vurek is playing the long game, Voss replied. He wants us to respond with anger. That would prove him right. What do we do instead? Lin asked. Voss looked up. His voice was steady. We show them who we are. He began preparing a message, not just for Earth, but for the entire Council zone. A public statement. Calm, clear, powerful. Later that day, the message played across neutral space. This is Captain Alex Voss of Earth. We have not left the Council because we seek power. We left because we were denied a voice. Earth will protect its allies. We will stand by our promises. But we will not sit in silence while others decide our fate. The message ended. No threats, no demands, just truth. The reaction was swift. Some praised it, some feared it, but no one ignored it. In the shadows of space, moves were being made. Some toward peace, others toward conflict. And above them all, the Council trembled because Earth was no longer quiet. The sky above Aegis Prime remained still, stars burning cold and silent beyond the thick station glass. But inside, tension moved like a silent wave through the metal halls. Every corner of the station felt heavier. Conversations were shorter. Eyes lingered longer. People were waiting for something to break. It broke 3 days after Captain Alex Voss's public message. A human cargo vessel, Orion Trail, was traveling along a neutral route near the station. It carried advanced medical supplies headed for the Noxian bloom colonies. Unarmed, slow-moving, and clearly marked with Earth's flag. It never made it to its destination. The attack came fast, without warning. 4 unknown ships jumped from subspace, disabled Orion Trail's engines, and destroyed the communications array. Before the crew could send a distress signal, the attackers boarded, looted, and vanished. By the time a patrol found the vessel, the damage had been done. Captain Voss stood in the command center of Earth's diplomatic wing on Aegis Prime, watching the report on the main screen. The crew survived, said Commander Lin. Minimal injuries, but the ship is ruined. Half the cargo is gone. Pirates? Voss asked. Lin frowned. That's the official explanation from the Council Security Network. They claim it was a random raid. Voss crossed his arms. Nothing about this was random. That route is monitored. Someone allowed it to happen, or looked the other way. There was a long pause. Should we respond? Lin asked. Voss looked at the map. The attack had happened dangerously close to the station. Too close. It sent a clear message. Earth was vulnerable, and its enemies were growing bold. Move the Vanguard and Soul Guardian closer to Aegis Prime, Voss said quietly. No weapons raised, just a show of presence. Lin nodded and left the room. Outside the station, 2 large Earth ships changed position. They didn't block any routes. They didn't threaten any vessels. But everyone noticed, and everyone understood the message. Earth would not be attacked in silence. Inside the Council chamber, the news of the attack spread quickly. Delegates argued over who was responsible. Vurek, as always, moved first. Let us not rush to blame, he said, standing before the assembly. Piracy has been increasing in the outer zones. It is unfortunate, yes, but common. Too common, said the Valari ambassador, and too well-timed. This was no accident, added the Noxian Bloom representative. Earth sent medical aid. Their ship was attacked, and now they respond by bringing warships closer to our home. What are we becoming? Vurek raised his hands. Let us not fall into chaos. We are the Council. We must remain united. But the Council was no longer united. The walkout had started cracks. The attack had deepened them. Meanwhile, in a shadowed room within the Council Tower, Vurek met with his aides. His face was calm, but his voice was hard. Earth is moving too quickly, he said. They gain sympathy, allies. If they build momentum, others may join them. Should we act? One aide asked. Vurek nodded. Not with force. Not yet. We will spread doubt, leak false reports, blame them for aggression, show the others that Earth is unstable. And if that fails, Vurik's eyes narrowed. Then we remind them why fear kept this galaxy in order for 100 years. Back on the station, Captain Voss stood at the observation deck, looking out at his ships, holding position beyond the force field dome. He felt the weight of the moment. Earth had not attacked, but it had been attacked, and the galaxy was watching to see what they would do next. Voss didn't want war, but he would not let Earth be hunted in the dark. He turned to Commander Lin. Prepare a communication. I want every system to hear it. To the Council? Lin asked. No, vas replayed. To the people they claim to protect. Across the stars, messages lit up screens in ships, colonies, and stations. This is Captain Alex Voss. A peaceful vessel was attacked. We ask for justice, not revenge. Earth will protect its people. Earth will stand with its allies. But if we must stand alone, we will. The message ended. No threats, no promises, just a line drawn in the stars. And behind it, Earth stood ready. A warning bell echoed through the corridors of Aegis Prime. It was not an alarm of danger, but of urgency. A message had gone out. Emergency session of the Galactic Council. All members required. It was the first emergency session called in over 20 years. Inside the massive chamber, representatives filed in quickly. Some looked anxious. Others looked angry. And some, like Chancellor Vurik, wore carefully controlled expressions. He took his usual seat, but his eyes kept moving. He was calculating, measuring the mood of the room. Then the chamber doors opened again. Captain Alex Voss stepped inside. He wore his Earth Navy uniform, black with a silver stripe across the chest, sharp and clean. His pace was steady. He didn't look left or right. He walked to the place where Earth's delegation had once sat. It was still empty. He did not sit. He stood, alone, in the center of the chamber. The silence was sharp. I thank you for this meeting, Voss said, his voice clear and calm. It's long overdue. Vurik's eyes narrowed. You no longer hold a seat in this council. What gives you the right to speak here? I hold the right given to me by every colony Earth protects, Voss replied. By every ship that sails safe because we keep the lanes clear. And by every voice that has been silenced in these halls for the sake of old power. A murmur passed through the room. Some nodded slightly. Others sat stiffly, unsure of where this would lead. I did not come here to make threats, Voss continued. I came to make things clear. Earth walked out not in anger, but in protest. We gave everything to this council. Our knowledge, our soldiers, our trust. And in return, we were pushed aside. Vurik rose slowly. His voice was smooth, but sharp beneath. You chose to walk away from unity. You destabilized peace. And now, you bring warships and bold words to intimidate us. No, Voss said, turning to face him. We brought the truth. And you're afraid of it. Gasps broke out from some of the younger delegates. Even the elders stirred. Never before had anyone spoken to Vurik like that in the council chamber. You blame pirates, Voss said. But we know that attack on Orion Trail wasn't random. You wanted to show that Earth is weak without you. Instead, you showed how much you fear us standing alone. Vurik stepped forward, face tight with controlled anger. You dare accuse the Council of conspiracy? You endanger every peace treaty we've built for a century. You endangered the day you stopped listening, Voss said. Silence. Then, the representative from the Valaris stood. Her voice was soft but firm. Captain Voss has spoken plainly. Perhaps it's time we all did. The Noxian bloom, shimmering in soft green light, followed. We supported the council because it protected us. Now we see the truth. It protects itself. One by one, smaller powers began to speak. Some defended Earth. Some called for investigations. Others demanded a vote. And the motion was made. Shall Earth be restored to full standing within the Galactic Council, with equal rights and voice, effective immediately? The chamber fell quiet as the vote began. One by one, lights around the chamber flicked on, green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstain. The final results blinked on the central display. Yes, 61. No, 58. Abstain, 11. Captain Voss said nothing. But around him, voices began to rise, not in celebration, but in realization. The council had changed. Vuric sat still in his seat, jaw clenched. His allies had slipped. His power had cracked. He did not speak again. Voss gave a single nod and turned to leave. He did not wait for applause. There was none. This wasn't a victory. Not yet. But it was a beginning. The vote had passed. Earth was back in the Galactic Council, by the narrowest of margins. But no one smiled. No one cheered. Captain Alex Voss walked out of the chamber as calm as he had entered, but he knew what those numbers meant. 61 yes. 58 non se abstain. That was not support. That was survival. Back in the Earth delegation room, his officers waited. Commander Lin stood near a large screen displaying council news feeds. They're already talking about the vote, Lin said. Some call it a step toward peace. Others say the council gave in to fear. Voss removed his coat and placed it carefully over the back of a chair. He sat slowly. It was a delay, he said, not a solution. What do we do now? Another officer asked. Voss looked at them, his expression steady. We hold the line. We show them Earth doesn't rise through threats, but through strength and fairness. We rebuild trust, not just with the council, but with the galaxy. Meanwhile, in his private chamber, Chancellor Vuric stood alone. The windows stretched across the wall behind him, showing the cold expanse of space. His aides had left. No words could ease his anger. He replayed the vote in his mind, over and over. It wasn't the defeat that burned him. It was how close he had come to total control. He had misjudged Earth. Worse, he had misjudged Alex Voss. Now the council was unstable. The weaker species had found a voice in Earth's defiance. Whispers of new alliances and reform were already beginning. Vuric knew the tides had turned, but the war for influence was far from over. He opened a private channel and spoke into the darkness. Begin the second phase. Quietly. Let no one trace it back to us. A shadowed figure on the screen nodded. Then the channel went dark. Back in the Earth quarters, messages from across the galaxy flooded in. Some were congratulations. Others were warnings. A few offered alliances. One stood out. The message was from Governor Hale, leader of Calliope Station, a large trade hub located in neutral space. Captain Voss, congratulations on Earth's return to the Council. But be warned, movement around our sectors has changed. Ships with unknown signatures are passing through. Someone is testing our borders. They're not pirates. They're organized. Voss stared at the message, then looked at the star map. Vuric won't stop, he said quietly. Not after today. Commander Lin frowned. He'll try to make us look weak. Or dangerous. Both, Voss agreed. But if we lose our temper, we lose everything. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth's warships remained in peaceful orbit, visible but still. It's time to do something harder than fighting, Voss said. We stay. We lead. We hold the council to its promises. And if they break them, Voss looked out at the stars. Then we remind them why Earth is still standing when so many others have fallen. On the council floor, the next session began. The chamber was tense. The return of Earth had changed the balance of power. Delegates spoke with caution now. Some addressed Earth directly for the first time in years. Others still refused to look at Voss. But no one ignored him. He was no longer just the ambassador from Earth. He was the symbol of what happened when silence ended. Outside Aegis Prime, traffic slowly resumed. Trade ships moved again. Patrols returned to normal. But the shadows behind it all remained. Vuric's influence still lingered. Not every war was fought with weapons. Some were fought with doubt, pressure, and fear. And Earth had just stepped into that war. Captain Alex Voss stood alone on the observation deck of Aegis Prime, staring out into the stars. The chamber was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of planetary light drifting through the viewport. Behind the glass, Earth's ships hung in orbit, silent, unmoving, and watchful. It had been 3 days since the vote. Earth's seat had been restored. The council had not collapsed. No new war had begun. On the surface, things looked calm. But Voss knew better. The council was holding together by threads, thin ones. His return had exposed the fractures in the system. The smaller species, once silent, were now asking questions. Some whispered of new coalitions. Some looked to Earth for leadership. Others, still loyal to Chancellor Vurik's way, watched with suspicion. Commander Lin entered the room quietly. Another message from the Valari, he said, holding a tablet. They want to meet privately. Off station. They're offering to support council reforms if Earth leads the discussion. Voss didn't turn. And Vurik, he hasn't shown his face since the vote, Lin replied. But we've picked up strange movements near the Zarn border. Military ships. New ones. Voss nodded slowly. He's waiting, letting us take the next step, hoping we stumble. He underestimated you once, Lin said. He won't again, Voss replied. Later that day, Voss entered the council chamber again. This time, the seats were full. Delegates looked at him openly. Some still didn't like him, but now they listened. The floor was open for discussion about new trade protections. Nothing urgent, but the tension in the air remained. Voss stood when it was his turn. I won't speak long, he began. We came back not because we needed the council, but because the galaxy needs something better than fear. If this place is going to mean something again, it has to change. Not just for Earth, for everyone. He looked around the room. No more decisions behind closed doors. No more silence when power speaks. If we stay quiet now, this fragile peace will break. He sat. The room remained quiet, but there was no resistance. Even those who once opposed him didn't speak. Later, in his private quarters, Voss received a final message. It was brief, a coded transmission from an unknown source. It read, "This is not over. You may have the chamber. We still have the shadows." Voss stared at it, then deleted the message. He knew the fight wasn't finished. It had only changed shape. That night, he walked through the lower levels of Aegis Prime, past maintenance workers, traders, and officers from across the galaxy. Some nodded. A few even smiled. One young alien child waved at him. Voss paused, smiled back, then moved on. He returned to the Earth delegation quarters where his officers waited. The council won't fall, Lin said. Not yet. No, Voss agreed. But it might finally stand for something again. He looked around the room at the team who had stood by him. This isn't about one vote or one victory, he said. It's about showing them that we don't need to rule to lead. We just need to stand firm. He looked out the window one last time that night. The stars were still. The council was quiet. And Earth, once silenced, now stood at the center of the galaxy again. Not with pride, not with power, but with purpose.